Well, that's the key. Is there a player that you want to go up to this draft? And we've talked about that the past couple of days, Jody. When you hear the word deep, it's usually code for something, and maybe the code is, hey, the top of this draft isn't nearly as talented as it typically is in a normal season.
Attack here on Bird 365 with John McMullen and Jody McDonald. I am told that my partner is wearing a dark blue turtleneck today. I can't tell colors anymore. I don't know if it's the color here on our YouTube feed or my eyes are going bad. Yours truly in a dark gray. Neither one of us in black today. That's a good sign. We're both up about the upcoming draft, right, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, and the sun is out. This is an important draft for your Philadelphia Eagles, Jody McDonald. Even though there aren't 3 first-round picks any longer, was the most important draft in franchise history. Now it's just super important.
Right. It's still rather important, but they never had 3 first-round picks, never made 3 first-round picks, and they're not going to make 3 first-round picks this year. Or are they?
You never.
Yesterday, while you and I were on the air on Birds 365, I've mentioned this before. Every day I got the TV on at 7 a.m. And I turn on the NFL Network to watch Good Morning Football. And I think they do a damn good show. Kay Adams is a good host. Kyle Brandt is tremendously entertaining. They run a number of different NFL players into that 4th seed. Peter Schrager is their information guy. Not only does he work for the NFL Network, he also works for Fox in season, doing pregame stuff for them on their network. And he floated a hypothetical, which yours truly loves, trade yesterday with the Philadelphia Eagles taking their 2 first-round picks and moving up in the draft, adding number 15 to number 19 and Jalen Reagor, and sending it to the Houston Texans for the number 3 pick in the draft. As we're talking about, should they really trade? If there are teams that are interested in Jalen Reagor, shouldn't they just do whatever it takes to get him off the roster? It's time to move on, acknowledge your mistake, tip your hat, get on with it. Schrager had a hypothetical deal that Reagor was going to the Houston Texans for the number 3 pick in the draft. I don't know if this is him just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, or if he's actually got some information about the conversation at least being had. So we give it the potential credence that it deserves. Who would the Eagles be moving up to get at number 3, Johnny Mac?
Well, that's the key. Is there a player that you want to go up to this draft? And we've talked about that the past couple of days, Jody. When you hear the word deep, it's usually code for something. And maybe the code is, hey, the top of this draft isn't nearly as talented as it typically is in a normal season. So who would you want? Who would you want at number 3? Who fancies you? Is it Aiden Hutchinson? Well, he's probably not going to be there. Is it Trayvon Walker? Well, he's probably not going to be there, but there's at least a possibility that either 2 can slip, because I don't know what the hell Jacksonville's going to do with the number 1 overall pick. The only name I can come up with is Kayvon Thibodeau, who is maybe the most talented. In fact, I would say the most talented, just from a pure ability perspective, probably the best of all the edge rushers. Is it worth going up that high? And by the way, I love how people put in Jalen Reagor.
Toss his butt into the deal.
Yeah. I mean, no offense to Peter, but I mean, you're not getting stuff for your own, what you're putting out at the curb. If you put something out at the curb, somebody's going to take it. They're not going to give you something for it.
You mean they don't leave any money under the rock that's out there on your front lawn?
You can keep checking, but and if you go by the trade charts, and people say Jimmy Johnson's trade chart is outdated. There's some new ones around there, but 15 and 18 doesn't even get you to 3. So I guess that's why he threw Jalen Reagor in.
Right.
Typically, the only reason you go up that high in the draft, and our buddy Shield Kapadia has his, which I like, I think it's 7 ways to not screw up the draft he does every year. One of them is, if you're trading up that high, it better be for a quarterback. So you're not trading up for a quarterback. So roundabout way of saying this doesn't make a lot of sense to me, Jody. I could see them targeting a specific player moving up a couple spots like they did last year with Devontae Smith. If they have a group and they think they're going to get him at 15 and all of a sudden they start coming off the board like what happened last year, then you got to show a sense of urgency and maybe go up a few spots to ensure you get the player you want before there's that significant drop off in your mind. The only reason I'm going up to 3 is to get a quarterback. So if you like Malik Willis that much, if you like Kenny Pickett that much, Godspeed. But I don't think the Eagles are in that category.
You saw it the same exact way I did. I broached this last night on my WIP show because Schrager trotted this out there while you and I were on the air. I watched the first hour of Good Morning Football. They didn't bring it up before you and I hit the stream world, so it must have been sometime after. And I said the same exact thing last night on WIP that you said just now. Could the Eagles trade up in the first round? Oh, yeah. If it is something very similar to what happened last year, they could move up a couple of slots. They're not trading 2 1s to get the number 3 to get Sauce Gardner. Now, I know there are some people in town that think Sauce is the next coming of Deion Sanders and is going to reinvent the shutdown cornerback term, which for me doesn't really even exist in the National Football League. The Eagles are lucky. And they got Darius Slay, who's one of the better cornerbacks in the entire NFL. Is he a shutdown cornerback? No. The best cornerback in the National Football League right now might be Jalen Ramsey. The way that I've always thought of and defined shutdown cornerback is Jalen Ramsey that? No. And if the best cornerback in the league isn't a shutdown quarterback, that tells me there are no shutdown cornerbacks in the National Football League. It doesn't mean that the talent level at that position is dropped. What it means is the NFL has changed the rules to basically make it impossible to be a shutdown cornerback. So if you're not getting a shutdown cornerback, because at least in my opinion, there's no such thing as a shutdown cornerback, why the hell would you trade up to number 3 to get the best cornerback? We all, I think anybody we've had on the show, all our guests, certainly we'll have that many more leading up to the draft. We haven't had one guy on and go, yeah, but you know, that Booth kid is just as good as Sauce Gardner. Nobody said that. Everyone acknowledges that he's the best cornerback in the draft. He doesn't need to be taken at number 3 in the upcoming draft. He's not that good. We talk about the values put on each position around the National Football League. You need a corner, but you don't even have shutdown corners anymore. So how did the Eagles justify moving up that high to get a cornerback into today's NFL?
No, would never, ever happen. And you stated it really well. Nothing against Ahmad Gardner. You're Jalen Ramsey. You hit the nail on the head with the name. That's what you're hoping for. That's the standard. That's as good as it gets in the modern NFL. And he's a phenomenal player. But you saw in the playoffs in high-profile situations, look, everything is against you in the modern NFL. It's impossible. And then can you imagine? Like I say this all the time, the Eagles can't think this way, and I understand that. This is just my spin on it. And perfect week with Alec Baum and the Phillies. I mean, this environment is tough. And I say this to you, Jody. You come in as the 3rd overall pick, and they traded up to get you, and you have growing pains? Oh, no. You got to show up and be Jalen Ramsey from day one. That's what expected. And that ain't going to happen. And even if Jalen Ramsey shows up, they're going to go, he's getting beat by Mike Evans in a big spot. He's getting beat in the Super Bowl in a big spot. Are you kidding me? We're giving this guy's this guy's Deion Sanders. The expectations would be so out of whack. So That's just something off to the side. I add to it. Now the Eagles can't think that way. They got to think: is the player a good player? Is he the third best player in the draft? I don't even think that. He's a very good player. I've said if they're going to trade up, they're going to target 3 players, and he's one of the 3 players. Sauce Gardner, Kayvon Thibodeau would be another if he starts to slip. And the third would be Jordan Davis. If he, starts to fall into the 12, 13 area and you think somebody's going to get him. Those are the 3 players, but they're not going up to number 3. They're not going up to 3. This team is too obsessed. I've been using that word a lot. They're obsessed with valuation. Howie's good at it. That's the that's the lead bullet point on his resume. Winning every trade. I understand this. I understand what this is worth. I understand what that's worth. Trading 2 first-round picks to go up to number 3 to get a cornerback, that would be the most un-Howie Roseman-like thing of all time. So while you never say never, I'll always leave it open to 99%. I'm close to saying never. There is no way they're trading up to get a cornerback that high in the draft.
You and I are on the same page here, and the reason why I agree with you, in addition to all the very good reasons you just gave, and those 3 players, I think Thibodeau would be in the same mix. If they went to 3, they could take either Sauce or Thibodeau, and I don't think they're doing that because my estimation, I know Howie's the best at it. You just gave him the crown as the king of valuation. The Eagles can't afford to give up that second first-round pick. As we sit here today, and we
well, I will say this, Jody, we're not ready, so you can give up whatever you want. You're kicking the can. If you're always kicking the can, if you're putting
tomorrow, 2 first-round picks together to move up, you're not kicking the can. You're aggressively moving up.
But I'm saying you're trying to get a great, you'll hear the term generational player. You're trying to get a generational player that's going to be so far above what you would get with 15 and 18. Yeah, they could spin it that way, but they're only going up to the top of a draft to get a quarterback. Oh, and they should. I mean, the Saints did it a couple years ago, and we just ripped Mickey Loomis for the trade with the Eagles, and I think rightfully so. And I think he went up to about 10 or 12. I'll look it up in the break to get Marcus Davenport. And everybody looked at him like he was nuts. And that's, because he's going up so high and giving up so much to get a non-quarterback. And that's much lower in the draft. It's just not the way Howie Roseman thinks. Now, if Mickey Loomis was here, I'd probably entertain it because all general managers are different, and they have and Xander says Davenport was 14. So, yeah, he went up, and he gave up pretty significant. I think he gave up a future first-round pick to go up and get Marcus Davenport, which he's been okay, but, it's just –
he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's all right. But he got a lot of
grief,
criticism, a lot of grief. Thank you for that particular move up. You're not going up that high in the draft, and if you do, you're going to get prepared to get killed. Not that Howie has job security issues.
He has always got job security. Here's why I don't think it's going to happen, and maybe I'm not thinking far enough outside the box. The Eagles have needs right now. The roster as is has needs, and I mean needs of players to step in and start for them next year, not building depth across the roster. No, they have starter needs. They have openings. They have holes in their roster. They at one point had 3 first-round picks. You serviced a position of need, future draft assets by making the deal that you made with the Saints. Okay, fine. We all thought it was going to happen. We all predicted it was going to happen. And sure enough, it happened. And Howie Roseman got the job done in something that the Eagles needed. They have immediate needs right now. They need starters to come out of this year's draft. And that's what you get, what you believe you're going to get with a first-round pick. So even if you get a star player, transitional, transient type player, a generational type player with the third, the fifth, whatever, if they have to package both ones to get there, I don't think it's worth doing right now. They have a bigger need, and the bigger need for me is a guy who can step in and start at safety. Sorry, Epsy. I love you as a third safety. I don't love you as a starter. Sorry, Zach Mack. You're starting at corner. I got a big question mark next year. They probably could hold down the fort at defensive end this year, but certainly for the future, Derek Barnett doesn't do anything for me, but that's a position of need. They have several across this 22-man roster of immediate needs. You believe you can fill two of them with 2 first-round draft picks in the first 19 in the draft. If you trade up to get one player, I can do simple math. 2 minus 1 is 1. You're only filling one need. I think they need to fill 2 needs. That's why they're not going to trip. Now, if they can do a deal like the Devontae Smith deal where you're giving up your 1 and an extra pick in a different round, a second, a third, or something along those lines, oh, yeah, I can see Howie Roseman doing that. But do you think they can afford to give up a starting player? If you believe you're getting the starting player with the 19th pick in the draft, do you think they can afford to do that?
Well, I think it depends. If you think and it's 18 now because of the Saints trade. If you think there's another starting level player you're going to get at 18, so that kind of is really, obviously long term you hope to get a starter, but I think you're talking about immediate starter, and that depends on your evaluation of the draft and how deep it goes. And most of the people we talked to says it goes in the 20s with legit first-round picks. So you should be able to get 2. So, the Eagles have needs. Everybody has needs, though. To me, it talks about
some teams have more needs than others.
But it talks about, do you think this is, and I hate the term, and I always say to my buddy Jack McCaffrey, I hate the term generational talent because people overuse it to a ludicrous degree. You can't have generational talent every year. If you have generational talent every year, it's not generational. If you think somebody is that different, then it changes the board. I don't see anybody like that, Jody. I don't see anybody. And by the way, if you want to go up to number 3, forget about the Eagles. Take the Eagles 10 off this. If you want to go up to number 3, you really want Sauce Gardner at number 3, even in this draft, or even Kayvon Thibodeau? If you start bringing in the Evan Neals of the world, who might be the most talented player in the draft, but for whatever reason, maybe he's not as far along as you would like, or who knows what Jacksonville's crazy. Look at Tony Khan tweeting about wrestling. Jacksonville's crazy. They're a wild card coming out of the gates, so you don't know what the heck they're going to do at number 1 overall. I mean, I don't think people think about it that way. Like, if you went up to 3, why would you take that player? Why? Because you have a need at corner, which they do. I mean, that is mistake number 1. That is a neon sign mistake. I like Sauce Gardner. I think he's the best cornerback in this draft. He's not the number 3 pick in this draft. No stinking way.
Yeah, I don't think
there's too many red flags on that potential trade.
Yeah, you said it earlier, and I agree with you. Thibodeau was a guy. If there is anything to this whatsoever, if the conversation has been had, at least it's been broached, you have to try and figure out why the Eagles would be doing it. They have to have a player that they think is there, who is, despite John McMullen's protestations, a generational player. The only one who could possibly be is Thibodeau, at least in my eyes. All right, we got a generational player joining us next. He hops aboard with us every couple of weeks right here on Birds 365. He's only been covering the Eagles for decades, doing it these days for Philly Mag. Also writes for the 33rd team. Paul Domowitz joins us next here on Birds 365.